feminine vulnerability that attracts and keeps a high value masculine man. Hello and welcome to Black Swan Relationship Academy. My name is Chengi. I am your dating and relationship expert, CEO of Black Swan Relationship Academy, course creator, and your friend, auntie, sister, whatever you need me to be, so that I can teach you how to be a high value, high status, high worth woman that high value masculine men completely and absolutely adore. If this is what you want to hear and this sounds good to you, then absolutely keep watching. So today, this Sunday, I have been doing a series on healing, and I have concluded that we are ready to take the next steps that come from having really examined the different areas of our lives that were in need of healing. Hopefully in the last few Sundays, we have been really looking at our relationship dynamics with our caregivers. We've been looking at our relationship dynamics with our mother and our father, dealing with the mother and father wound. We've also been dealing with the sibling wound, and really we can go on and on about the caregivers that may have taken advantage of us as children or not have been just the best caregivers for the needs that we had. Now, if we're ready to continue to move on and to experience the healing and to experience the flourishing of the healing, we have to address the issue of vulnerability. Feminine energy is vulnerable energy. It is important for us to understand that you cannot truly flourish in your femininity, nor can you truly embody femininity if you have issues with vulnerability. If vulnerability is a dirty word to you, if it causes anxiety to rise up on the inside of you, do not be afraid. It is because there's so much about it that we don't understand. But vulnerability is your birthright as a feminine woman, and it is your power. And if you want to definitely be in the life of a masculine energy man who cherishes you, protects you, and gives to you, then you must be comfortable being vulnerable. But Chengi, what do you mean? If we're vulnerable, will we not be vulnerable to predators? Will men not come into our lives and take advantage of us? Because the last time I was vulnerable, I got taken for a ride. Yes, I know this story very, very well. So let me define vulnerability for you in this video so that we are clear about the parameters upon which I am discussing vulnerability. There is vulnerability that is as a result of being impoverished, being out on the street, having, mental health conditions, issues, diagnosis, and real things in life that put us in an unhealthy or unhappy but definitely vulnerable position in such a way that we can be taken advantage of. But the vulnerability that I'm speaking of today is emotional vulnerability. The vulnerability that takes courage. The vulnerability that Brené Brown speaks of in her book, Daring Greatly. The vulnerability that requires courage, overcoming, fortitude. The vulnerability that, as far as I'm concerned, comes only and issues only from a healed heart. A heart that is healing or healed. Unless we have healed our wounds, unless we have got a handle on our triggers, we will obviously find it hard to be vulnerable. Our inability to be vulnerable speaks of how much we are sitting in our masculine energy. And when we are wounded and hurt, we sit in masculine energy and we become defensive, we become aggressive, and we fail to be assertive. Feminine energy requires that we be vulnerable. Now, what is vulnerability within the context of dating and relationships? What is it really? Is it purging? Let's talk about the difference between purging and vulnerability. Purging is when you come to the table and vomit your life stories. Purging is giving to somebody who has not earned the right to your story. Somebody who has not bought into your trustworthiness? Can you trust them? Have they bought your trust for full price? Have they shown up for you? Have they cherished you in multiple ways? Are they consistent? And have they been around long enough for you to prove them worthy of your story? The ex that ditched you, the ex that cheated on you, the ex that beat you up and threw you out onto the street, the parent that abused you, all of these stories are your story. They are your story. And a story that really should have been shared or should be shared with a therapist, a counselor, a coach at some point in your life. A story that you should be working on, have worked on, and continue to work on. Because our romantic relationships are not where we go for therapy, albeit they're a place where we can experience much healing. There's nothing wrong with wanting somebody who can promote your healing process, can support your healing process. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, we should pray, crave, and be open to men coming into our lives who can assist us with the healing process and the healing journey that we have begun. But we are not going to meet those men if we lead with our pain, if we lead with our painful stories. So I am not talking about coming to the table and purging all of your life stories, sharing things that are private and intimate to you, or really opening up your heart in ways that the man in front of you has not yet earned. This is not only going to keep you in a really unhealthily vulnerable position for the narcissists and the psychopaths who just love all of that, but it will leave you being very, very low value. A man's going to think to himself, gosh, if I date this girl, I'm going to have to make up for all of the mistakes that other guys made before me. I'm going to have to carry all of that baggage. And guess what? I've got my own baggage. So this is too much for me. I am out of here. I used to be a bit of a purger, but much of it was really to manipulate the other person. We purge because we want this man in front of us to know that we've already been hurt. We've already had our heart broken by the other guy. So if he is here to do exactly the same thing, your heart simply cannot take it. That's why many of us purge. I want you to know that I've already been hurt. Somebody has already broken my heart. Somebody has already done the worst possible thing to me. And I need you to understand that my heart needs healing. And I need you to volunteer for the job of healer. But this does not attract a healer. This makes a high value masculine man run to the other side. And it definitely makes a man who perhaps wants to take advantage of you think, yes, I have found my victim for life. Because predators love somebody who is limping, not as strong. No, today, when I speak about vulnerability, I'm going to be talking about our needs. Our unmet needs in particular. Many of us have thought and sometimes even been taught that to be high value and to be an amazing woman that can get a man attracted and excited to her, she needs to squash her unmet needs. She needs to squash her emotions and proceed only with logic. She needs to have a game plan and work it. She needs to have a set of rules and follow them. She needs to have a set of principles and obey them. She needs to be a dating robot. She needs to be superwoman, perfect in every way. And have you found that when you are superwoman, perfect in every way, every hair is always in place, that you find that you only attract men that are feminine, that want to use you, abuse you, and care very little about your emotions. And then you might ask yourself, I am so unlucky in love. But this is not true. You are showing up as a woman that doesn't need anything from anybody. You see, I unfortunately had to deal with this image. And unfortunately, because of the work that I do and because of my social media, it is a very hard one to destroy. It takes a man of real substance, a man of deep spirituality to often see the woman behind the brand. This, who is speaking to you today, this is authentically me, but it is not all of me. Sometimes I feel sad. Sometimes I feel lonely. Sometimes I get needy. Sometimes I just want somebody to hold me and I want somebody to prioritize me, make me first. Sometimes I want to be an absolute brat. And sometimes I brood. And sometimes I pout. And sometimes I am not always Miss High Value and feminine. And many times, some men have found it hard to accept. You see, there are men out there who want the perfect girl. They want the girl that doesn't cry. I dated a guy who just was not able to date anyone other than the SWAN queen. I always had to be perfect, put together, perfect nails, perfect hair, perfect attitude, complain about nothing, give everything, smile through everything, be understanding about everything. And anytime I asked for my needs to be met, woo, it was hell. I was always attacked. Stop being a baby. Stop it. Stop being one of these other women. You are better than that, Chengi. I thought you were different. I thought you were different from all the other women. And so I would be guilted and feel like, oh my goodness, I have come off the pedestal. And now he doesn't see me as the goddess that I am. Okay, I'm having a little bit of a giggle with you. But I would feel like I'd somehow let him down by just asking for an emotional need to be met. Do you think you could spend a bit more time with me? Do you think that you could maybe speak to me a bit kindly? Do you think that maybe you could plan for us to spend a bit more time? But it was never ever accepted in that particular relationship. And this for me is a massive, huge red flag. At the end of the day, any relationship we're gonna have with anybody may start off at the dating phase, but it is a lifelong commitment, potentially with somebody. And you want to be with somebody who can see your shadow and live with it. Somebody who sees your shadow as a part of who you are and loves you nevertheless. What are you talking about, Chengi? I am talking about the shadow self. The bit of ourselves that we're not always proud of. The bit of ourselves that sometimes needs a little bit more than maybe other girls do. The part of ourselves that needs to love hard, that really just needs to show up and love hard. Sometimes that can make men feel like they're overwhelmed. Or the part of ourselves that really needs more attention than maybe the average girl. Maybe the part of you that just needs to be spoken to in a certain kind of way more than other people. The part of you that is a little bit more sensitive than other women. The part of you perhaps that gets easily triggered. The part of you that sometimes feels abandoned by things that perhaps you know logically and rationally shouldn't make you feel abandoned. The part of you that is really sensitive to feeling neglected. Often we feel like we have to hide this, but we don't realize that the attempt to hide it is keeping us in masculine energy and attracting men that are feminine energy. Men that would rather we cherish their emotions over and above our own. This is what we're dealing with when we're attracting feminine energy men. They're requiring that we put their emotions over and above our own. This is what the masculine does for the feminine. And so we find ourselves holding back, not asking anything, being needless and wantless, and falling into the nice girl trap, living our lives by what he expects us to be. Whatever his projection of a woman should be, this is the one that we continue to live. As a black woman, I have to live up to the strong, successful, powerful black woman image. Oh, they love it. Oh, you are the strong, successful black woman. And sometimes I am not allowed to be anything else. I'm not allowed to be a girl. I'm not allowed to just have a bad day. I always have to be strong, successful, independent, black woman. Okay. And I know that this is not true just for black women. I work with women all over the world, and every culture has its own version of the strong black woman. Every culture, every race, every creed has got a little category where they put women that are supposed to be strong, women that are supposed to be formidable and powerful, because it's like a crime for you to actually be able to use your masculine energy to create something amazing. And then once you are able to do that, nobody allows you back into femininityville. But this is not true. We can take our power back. We can be successful. We can be powerful. Yes, sometimes we could even attempt being strong. But at the end of the day, we have a divine right to our femininity. And we have a divine right to attract a man that honors that about us and loves us even more. A man that can take you saying, babe, you know what? You have every right to disappear for a few days to get your mind straight. But when you do that, it really triggers issues of abandonment in me. I start to feel abandoned, and I know it has nothing to do with you, and I'm still working on it, but I would really love it if you would at least send me a text just to let me know you're okay and that you're thinking about me. And that is all I require, because I understand that you need your time, but I also need you to reach out to me. This is the vulnerability that allows us to be feminine, allows the man in our lives to see that, oh, she's not a robot. She's not some got it together girl all day, every day. Because when we don't do that, we now have to participate in protest behavior. We now have to participate in passive aggressive behavior, snide comments, putting things out there and coming across aggressive. We need, as feminine women, to learn to be assertive about owning first and foremost the things that we feel, accepting that, yes, it may make me not a perfect woman. Yes, it may be that that is your cross to bear as the man in my life. It might mean that, yes, you're going to have to possibly work harder in this area emotionally to accommodate me. But it doesn't make me broken. It doesn't make me worthless. And I still am deserving to be loved for who I am. When we refuse to come up and show up in the world, when we refuse to acknowledge how we feel, when we refuse to have the vulnerability to tell the man in our lives that when you say that in that way, it really hurts my feelings, and he is unwilling to embrace that his actions hurt your feelings, and for you to love yourself enough to know that, you know what, you might not be a bad guy, you might be a great guy, but baby, you're just not my guy, because my guy cares about how I feel and how his actions make me feel. I remember this other guy who used to feel like when I shared my feelings, I was manipulating him. It's not his fault. He was not a bad guy. He just had wounds that just didn't work well with me. He wanted somebody who was always rational, logical in their brain. He loved the masculine side of me, but he was not willing to embrace the feminine. I love it when I meet a man and he loves my movements, and he loves my success, and he loves the fact that I'm driven and ambitious. I love it. It's an absolute turn on. But I love it even more when he loves to see the fragile part of me, when he enjoys seeing my vulnerability, listening to some of my fears and my doubts, and being there when I don't always feel like Superwoman, when he holds space for me to just be a girl. And this is a truly masculine man. We have to be okay with sharing our needs and asking them to be met by the man that we are intimate with, the man that we're exploring a relationship with, the man that we are hoping to keep as our husband or our fiance. It is not okay to show up in the world strong and powerful, veneered and walled up, armored. No, Black Swan, it is important for you to wear your soft feathers. Even a swan, when she lifts up her wings, underneath are those soft baby feathers, and they remind us that she's just a swan. As amazing as she is, as vast as her wings can spread, and as powerful as she paddles underneath the water, when we see the softer feathers, we understand that she's just a swan, and that the softer part of her doesn't make her weak, it makes her human. We want to be with men that accept our humanity. And when we can give ourselves permission to be vulnerable, guess what? We can give him permission to be vulnerable. We can hold space for him to be vulnerable in our space. This is the beauty of relationship. We want to connect with a person who sees us for who we are, and a person whom we see for who they are. Anything less is not a relationship. It is a performance. Whenever we feel we have to just perform, we are not creating loving, lasting, authentic relationships. What we are doing is playing some courtship ritual or dance that is going to end with our broken heart. It's okay for you to be imperfect. It's okay for you to have needs that other women don't possess. It's okay for you to be hurt by a joke that other people find funny. It's okay for you to be sensitive about one thing or the other, as long as you are prepared to vulnerably, respectfully communicate that need and ask for him to do better whilst you work on the cause of that need. It is about showing up. Vulnerability for me is about showing up. Not just showing up weak and soft or broken, sometimes also showing up powerfully, showing up as a strong woman, showing up in your glory. You know, I used to have a difficulty showing up vulnerable, but it was being afraid to shine bright. I always felt like I had to dim my light. I had to calm it down, because if I shine bright, I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to be abandoned. No man is going to want to deal with a woman that shines as brightly as I do. So I made it my job to constantly dim my light so that I wouldn't blind the men that I wanted to date. That too was a lack of vulnerability. Sometimes you have to be you all the time. Being a light is who I am, and that works for me. I love hard and I love well, and I'm wholehearted about everything I do. That is who I am. And there's no point in dimming that light when I know full and well that at some point I'm gonna have to explode. I'm gonna have to be the best version of myself. So maybe you are the girl that has been hiding your shadow self, not wanting people to see that you hurt, and not wanting the man that you're dating to know that you hurt and that you have issues and you have wounds and this stuff that you're working on. It's okay. But maybe you're that other girl too, who's been holding herself back from her greatness, thinking if she just dulls down a little bit, then he's gonna not feel intimidated. It takes courage. It takes vulnerability to show up as you, all of you. Obviously, without purging. Obviously, showing up wisely. But if you're going to win as a feminine woman in the game of love, you have to begin to address your relationship with vulnerability. I am here to help you, ladies, and so are my coaches. We're here to help you navigate the space of vulnerability, to begin to grow your femininity, and to become a beautiful flower that masculine men absolutely adore. If this sounds good to you, don't hesitate to book a discovery call with myself or any of my exquisite, amazing, beautiful coaches who are here to listen to you, direct you, and help you be your most powerful, vulnerable self. Join us in SWAN City on Facebook, which is a free Facebook group, or join the elite class of high-value Black Swans in Black Swan Nation. Again, that is a subscription base where all of the coaches are in there supporting every single one of you as you date. You can find all of the links in the description below. I look forward to seeing you on my next video. But in the meantime, take care of you. Love you lots. Bye-bye now.